Welcome back, everybody. This is GemCG, your 3D art tutor, and today I'm going to go over a bunch of stuff that I feel like I forgot or just sort of glazed over in my last video. And it's all pretty basic stuff that I think is really useful, and I found myself using a ton when I was just modeling something. So let's get into Blender. Alright, you remember Suzanne, I'm sure. And one of the first things I want to go over is this area down here. There's all kinds of different and very useful tools down here that I use all the time. And you've seen up here, like you can go create a cube, a plane, or any of the objects up here. You can also do it here. There's add, and then mesh, and then all of those are down here. And then, of course, all those same things. And then, of course, you also have the object mode and edit mode. You can sort of switch between your modes down here. This is your how you want to display, or how you want the viewport to display your models. So you can switch to render frame here, or render frame, wireframe, solid, which is what we'll be using mostly, and material and texture and all those different things. So the next thing I want to show you is right here. This is the sort of the pivot point for things like rotations or scaling or even extrusions. You'll want to change this depending on what you want, and I will show you some different examples of why you would want to choose um, you know each different thing. And right here we've got layers. And this can be really useful if you have a very complicated scene and you've got all kinds of different objects and you want to work on one little thing that's over in this corner and you have all this other stuff in the way you don't want to see. You can just say it's on this layer. You can just select that layer. Everything else is hidden except that one object. And so that's very useful when you start working on large scenes, or even just maybe close-quartered interior scenes, like you want to hide the walls, or you want to hide, big stuff that's in the way of other things. So there's that. Okay, and now this changes between object mode and edit mode. So see, we go into object mode, and layers go away, and we get the different ways we can select, vertices, edges, and faces. We also get this, which is very, very useful. So right now you can kind of see the faces behind this face. See, if I sort of rotate around, you can kind of see through everything. And I have it that way so that, say, I want to select all of these points here. So let's go points and do that. See, now I can select all of those points, and even though they're behind the things that are in front. If you don't want that, and sometimes you won't, sometimes you'll only want to be selecting things that are right. Like say I want to select these points, but I don't want to get all this other stuff behind it, I would turn this on so you see you can't see through it anymore. And let's go Control, left click and drag, and then I just got those points. Nothing behind it was selected, except that stuff I already had selected. So this is basically like a limit selection to visibility, depending on the visibility. And finally, we have snapping, which this is so useful, especially when you're doing hard surface modeling and things like that, but even organic, because you're going to want to have things perfectly line up or be perfectly symmetrical. Like, for example, let's change this ear a little bit. Like, we're going to grab these points and just drag them up here. Say we want that for whatever reason. Well, we want it to be symmetrical, so Control select these ones here. Oops. How did I get that one? There we go. And grab those, and now, oh, I have to unselect those points. Okay. Control select. I have something on, and it is on vertex, which is what I want. So now if I grab it and go up, there we go. It'll just snap right to this point. So now I've got perfectly symmetrical edits. And that looks very weird. Okay, so moving on, I wanted to talk to you about edge loops. So right here is an edge loop. This goes all the way around her face, and these are really important, and they're really useful in modeling. Something that I've had trouble with in the past when I was first getting into like modeling characters and complex things like that, I would have edge loops that would spiral and never quite meet. You want an edge loop to be perfectly connected like this. You never want it to like go this way and then spiral around all the way around the head. Like, oh, that's really bad. And hopefully I will teach you to not do that. And yeah, so the way I selected this whole edge loop here is going Alt, right click, and that's really, really useful, and you'll find yourself using that a lot. And so I can do something like, say I find this a little too pointy, so I can just scale, turn off snapping, because it's going to do crazy things like that. Scale that down, and see now it's a little more subtle, it's not so pointy. Yeah, so that's a really useful thing. Alright. Oh, and talking about the origin point. So say we want to, alright, let's go into face mode. We're going to select this face and this face. And we're going to do something like, we're going to give him horns, give her horns, I guess. Match her pointy ears. But we don't want them to be quite this size. What we'll do is we'll hit extrude. Oh, no, don't do that. And we're going to set the pivot point to individual origins. And now we'll hit E to extrude and then scale. And then see, we can scale that down right inside that face. Oh, see, I just made a mistake. When I extruded there, I didn't do anything, and I extruded again. You can see, watch this. Alright, and then we'll right click. See, now those little points there, there are faces there, but I didn't move this point, so that's going to cause problems for you later down the road in your models, so always make sure to undo that. Okay, so we're going to hit E to extrude, S to scale, and then we'll scale that in like that, because that's more like what we want. And we'll hit E again, sort of go up. There we go. And he's got these weird square horns. But we can turn this into a point pretty easily, and that will help me show you something else. So you see me coming down here to switch between faces, edges, and points. And that's fine and good, and it's great for when you're just getting started. But a little shortcut that really speeds things up is if you go Control-Tab. Now I've got right here, wherever my cursor is in the 3D viewport, I can change it. Really, really easy. So we're going to change to vertex, and then Control and lasso select that point, and we're going to go Alt-M. And so this is going to merge the points we selected, and this is another really important tool that you're going to use a ton in modeling, because you're always going to want to merge vertices for all kinds of reasons. So we want a point, and I want to merge them to center. Perfect. Now he's got this crazy pointed horn. Do that over here too. So when you have a whole bunch of stuff selected, like you can hit A to select everything, and A will deselect everything as well. It's another useful tidbit. Now Control Select, and then Alt M, and Center. Cool. Moving right along. Let's see. Edge split. So say I want these horns to be a separate piece, for maybe for texturing reasons, or I want a different material than the rest of her head. I can split this off, and then it will be. I can also separate it into a separate object as well. So if we go into Control Tab, Edge, and then Alt right click to select that. We could go down here to Mesh, Edges, Edge Split. And now, if I go Alt Select, we'll just drag that up. Now we've separated that. So it's a separate piece. Technically it's still part of this whole mesh, but now you can actually separate it. Okay, moving right along. I think I showed in the last video adding edge loops with Control R. Here we can do that again, and this just shows you we can sort of scale that up. So again, maybe I find this still a little too pointy. We can just sort of add in this extra detail, and that just kind of rounds out that shape a little bit. Scale that up. Alt-Shift select if you want to select two edge loops. Scale those. Right about there. Yeah, just kind of round things out, and you'll find yourself doing that a lot with organic modeling. Another thing that's really useful, let's go into face mode and say let's delete this face, and we'll delete this face too. Okay, we got a big hole in our model. What do we do? What's an easy way to fix this? Well, let's switch over into edge select, and we'll select this edge, and then we can just hit F, and we fill it. Same with this one, and this one, F. It's a really, really quick way to just fill up holes in your mesh. Alright, and the final thing, well, okay, there's two more things I want to show you. So you've got all these tools I showed you. Maybe you don't remember, where mesh, you won't remember mesh, edges, and then edge split. One thing you can always do is just hit the spacebar, and then hit edge split, or there's slide, edge split right here. And you can do the same thing. And pretty much everything you can look up this way. Alright, just click out of there to get rid of that. And finally, let's move over to this area here. I kind of didn't talk about this at all. So it's got all kinds of different properties, like you've got your scene. This is all about rendering and all that stuff. And here you've got all kinds of different properties for the object you have selected. Suzanne, you've got the name here. You can rename things here. This shows you its location in space and the scale, what layer it's on, if there's any groups or parents, and you can even do things like you want to have the name displayed. I think it only shows you an object mode for that one, and then also the axes. So if for whatever reason your rotations are all out of whack, even though it looks right, You know, say this is some crazy number, you'll see that the axis is off kilter, and you can fix that. And all these other different things, but we will go into those as we need. One of the more important things here is the modifier tab. And in here, you've got all kinds of different things you can add to edit your mesh and stuff like that. One of the things I use a lot is the, where is that? Subdivision surface. See, now we've pretty uniformly and universally added a whole bunch of geometry here if you go to edit mode. However, it's still the same low poly mesh we started with. We can hit apply. Oh, you have to go into tab out into object mode, apply it. Now you see you've made all that permanent, but maybe you don't want that. You just want it to look a little smoother, and you still have the ease of editing with this lower poly version, but you have this really high poly display. So see, kind of move that around, and it also smooths everything out. See how it made this little smoother, as well as the horns here. You know, can only do so much, but you can add more subdivisions and just make it crazy smooth, like so. Turn the view off. There we go. Alright, so that's just a quick look at some things I didn't show, or I felt like I didn't show enough of. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and if you'd like to see more like this, stay tuned. Thank you, and good night.